Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by and welcome to Visual BI's webinar. Today, we'll be talking about leveraging Microsoft Power BI for Enterprise Self-Service BI. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. If you have a question during the presentation, please submit it via the Q&A portion of the screen. Simply type your question into the box and click the send button. Our presenter will address questions at the end of the presentation, time permitting. If you don't hear an answer to your question, don't worry. We will deliver answers to you individually after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded and a link to the replay will be sent to you via email. Presenting today is Varun Anand, a senior BI consultant with Visual BI Solution, a blogger, trainer, and subject matter expert in the fields of BI and data analytics. His background includes experience in management consulting and training business users with self-service solutions. I will now turn the presentation over to Varun.
Hi, folks. So today we are actually going to look into details about how do you leverage Microsoft Power BI for self-service solutions and how does it actually play a role with respect to an enterprise level scenario. Okay, so we're actually going to go over quick introductions with respect to what we actually do in Visual BI. But apart from that, we're also first going to look into the introductions of what Microsoft Power BI is, what are the unique features about it, and some of the basic functionalities that it actually covers, as well as advanced concepts. We'll also be evaluating the 5 steps which are involved in self-service BI and how Power BI stands with respect to each one of these steps. We'll also be covering a couple of demo scenarios, which goes into detailed feature analysis. And apart from that, we're also going to talk about integration along with different technology stack, which includes both Microsoft as well as SAP. Towards the end, we'll also be talking about like a couple of offerings that Visual BI has done with respect to a couple of its clients, and also case studies from them. And obviously, the last 2 or 3 are going to have like a more question and answer sessions. So just quick introductions on Visual BI. So Visual BI as a company, we pretty much work a lot on the SAP stack, but we also have leveraged a lot more activities on the Power BI, Azure and Microsoft BI technology stacks as well. And these are a couple of companies which are actually part of the portfolios, which are predominantly divided into 3 aspects. The first one being services, all the way from back end to front end, and then as well as products, which includes our extensions. And also the last part is the training offerings on various front end as well as back end tools. Okay, so let's actually get into the main topic, which is Microsoft Power BI. The first thing is it's a Microsoft-based product, and it's mainly used for data modeling and data visualization. And with respect to Power BI, there are like 6 offerings that Microsoft presents. So the first one being the desktop client tool. So Microsoft Power BI is actually a Windows-based tool and is actually used on PCs and desktops. This is actually a free version of the tool that is actually available for a lot of users. Then the second offering is the mobile applications. So they have mobile apps pretty much in all the 3 main categories, which includes iOS, Android, as well as Windows-based devices. And it works based upon both phones as well as on tablets. Now, when you're actually looking at an enterprise level solution, you'll also need to look into things like Microsoft Intune for the enterprise level support so that the synchronization is much more smoother. And once the Power BI desktop is actually, complete, on the modeling as well as the visualization side, you would want to actually publish it onto the server. And the server is actually called as Power BI Service, and which integrates along with Microsoft Outlook 365 or Office 365. Now, there are also a couple of gateways that is provided by Microsoft in order to sync the data in and out of Power BI. And this is actually of 2 types. There's a personal gateway as well as an enterprise level gateway, which you're going to look into details later. Microsoft also offers Power BI embedded solutions, which are more for custom applications and can also be extended for users without a Power BI license. So this has actually 2 scenarios which will be considered. One is for developers as well as independent service providers, and the other one is when you're looking at an enterprise level solution, especially with the Power BI Premium. And the last one is actually the report server. Since a lot of organizations still work based upon on-premise solutions, Microsoft also offers an on-premise solution for all its reporting needs, as Power BI Service, which is actual server, is actually more of a cloud-based solution. So the report server is an on-premise solution, and the Power BI Service is a cloud-based solution. And we're also going to look into details about the licensing next. At a high-level architecture, this would be the flow of how we integrate along with Power BI. The first would be the development on the desktop level. This is again a best practice scenario. There's so many permutations and combinations available in this. But in a best practice scenario, you would want to leverage the Power BI desktop in order to do all your data modeling as well as additional data preparation and build reports. And once that's actually built, you will actually be leveraging a lot of data sources. And Power BI has like 70+ data sources that you can actually connect out of the box. Now, the gateways actually enable you to actually connect to the same data, but in order to actually do scheduled refreshes as well as manage permissions and role level security as well. So once the data is actually modeled and the visualizations are built into reports, that will be later published in the Power BI service, where the dashboards can be pinned and it can be leveraged across the whole enterprise or the organization, or it can be limited to even just a bunch of folks belonging to a small team. And finally, we can actually access it, like I mentioned, you can actually access it over the reporting server, or you can also leverage it on mobile devices as well. Now, when you're actually looking at the licensing for all these different tools, Microsoft does offer a wide range of licenses, all the way from premium to free solutions. So the first one would be Microsoft Power BI Desktop. This is a free tool that's available on Microsoft website, and you would be able to leverage most of its functionalities. If you have an Office 365 account, you will be able to access pretty much all its functionalities. And as I mentioned, this is a free tool which is available on the website, which you can download. But you can also publish over to your Office 365 account or the Power BI service, and it is restricted only to that individual user. If you would want to actually collaborate along with your other teams, you would be looking at Power BI Pro. This brings in additional collaborator features, which we'll be looking into next. Now, when you actually publish it to a whole enterprise, and which moves on to thousands of users accessing dashboards as well as the reports, that's when you actually look at Power BI Premium. And within Power BI Premium, you also have the report server, which is included as part of it, which is an on-premise solution for the reports. Now, a quick just on the pricing options. More details can actually be accessed on the pricing website as well. So the first one is the Pro licenses is like around $10 per month per user. This is US dollars. And the premium would be based upon the number of nodes that you actually have and the number of users that will be accessing, which is close to like $4,995 per user per month, per node per month. And this actually is over like a bunch of users that can actually access your reports and dashboards. Power BI report server is, however, included as part of the premium itself, and they give you flexible options where you can transition from the on-premise server to the cloud whenever required. More options can actually be found under the pricing website. So let me just show you that really quick. So this would give you more options on what are the pricing options and the capacity pricing for an enterprise level solution using Power BI Premium. The part which I really like about this is they also have a calculator over here where you can enter the number of users and you can estimate like how many users would require Pro and then frequent and occasional users. And this would give you total as an estimate before you can actually contact your Microsoft account executive to get the exact pricing for your whole organization. So with respect to an enterprise level scenario, we would be looking at Power BI Pro and Power BI Premium and reporting server if you want an on-premise solution. Power BI Desktop is a good way to actually start initially. Little more details on what actually is covered in free versus Pro as well as the premium options. As you can actually see, the initial level of exploration, your free version is good because you can connect all your data sources as well as publish it. But when you actually want to collaborate and extend it over to your whole team, you would want the Pro version. So when you're looking at enterprise level self-service, Pro version is required as a basic minimum. Power BI Premium offers you obviously more options on the data refresh as well as embedding it into different applications so that other folks who do not have the user licenses can also access the dashboards in case they're occasional users. And again, all these different comparisons can be also found on the Power BI website. When you're installing Power BI desktop, there are a couple of requirements which you need to take care with respect to, because it's a desktop tool and it's Windows-based application and it's intensive on the RAM. So you need at least a minimum of 4 GB of RAM, and it has to be on one of these versions of Windows. It doesn't currently work on the Mac, but you do have an offering on the Power BI service side where you can connect to Microsoft-based data sources or web browser like Safari itself. But when you're looking at a Windows-based desktop, you also require Internet Explorer 9 or above. And also, obviously, if you're looking at 32-bit version or a 64-bit application to work with. And connecting along with your Office 365 account, it actually gives you all the functionalities. There's obviously a free version as well as a sign-in option where you can actually explore more of these features. Power BI, let me just switch over to the demo portion for this part. So Power BI has actually 3 kinds of views, just to give an introduction on the tool. It has a report view, and then it has the data view, and it has a relationship view. Okay, so this would be how the tool actually looks like. So this is Power BI. I actually logged into my account using my Office 360 account. And you can also see that it has a report view, which is basically this canvas layout, enabling you to actually drag and drop visualizations. When you actually connect to a data source, you will be able to see the table structures here, as well as the relationships right over here. Now, we'll get into more details and demo scenarios right after this. But I wanted to talk to you about self-service BI solutions. So self-service is a scenario in which business users will be able to do ad hoc analysis and dashboards on the fly without actually involving IT into it. Simple reason is because if they want to do certain ad hoc analysis, currently they use a tool like Excel, which is really good. But Excel also comes with certain limitations, like the amount of data sources it can connect to, as well as the amount of data volume that it can handle, and obviously the visualization capabilities. So that's the reason why they've extended it to Power BI in order to fill in these gaps. So with any data visualization or self-service BI tool, we are going to look into these 5 steps. The first one is data acquisition. How well does it actually connect to different data sources, be it big data systems or simple spreadsheets or cloud-based applications. Once the data is acquired, then how do you actually do additional data preparation, because business users want to actually convey the details, like to make finer changes. Like for example, if there's a name and they want to split it into first name, last name, they want to concatenate a couple of fields, they want to do custom groupings or custom hierarchies. All that is actually taken care of in data preparation. And then data visualization, where you actually build charts on the fly and how easy it is with the drag and drop functionality. Then building dashboards using these charts, and then finally collaborating along with the other users using all these steps. So let's actually quickly look into how Power BI actually works in this one. So the first step is data acquisition. So there's an option called as get data over here, where you'll be able to connect to multiple data sources. By default, you will see the most common ones being Excel, Microsoft Power BI Service, and a couple of other data sources like SSAS as well. When you click on more, it actually opens up like a ton of different data sources it connects to, and it's also categorized based upon if it's a cloud-based application, Azure, or a file-based system. In this case, I'm just going to take a simple Excel as an example. So I'm just pulling in this Excel file. And what it actually does right now is it shows me all the tabs that are present in my Excel. I'm just going to select one tab, a preview is generated. I can directly load this and start visualizing if required, or I can even switch over to the edit mode, which takes me to the data preparation phase. In this case, it's called as a query editor. So the good part about Power BI is that it has a very similar look and feel of Excel and very similar options. So you feel all the data preparation options right on top. Things like merging queries, appending queries, like where you can do joins and unions, splitting columns, and also a couple of transformations, like if you want to make the first column as first row as the header, you want to pivot the data, you want to do some statistical analysis, all those options. Like there's a ton of different options that's available, and data preparation is one of the biggest strengths of Power BI. And also there are a couple more options which you can actually see when you right click on this, where you can actually do transformations, pivoting, unpivoting, and merging along with other columns. those can be done. Clicking over here, you can even change the data types, and it supports like a ton of different data types, being like from simple numeric values to date and time functions as well. And you can also see that's like a filter-based option, which is very similar to the one which you actually see in Excel. And let's say I go over to one particular thing, say order ID. I don't want it to be like a numeric field. I just want it to be, in this case, a text-based field, because order ID, I don't want to have aggregation for that. So I'm just going to replace the current. So all the steps that I'm actually doing right now gets logged under this column called as applied steps. So it's easy to track what are the other changes that I've been doing, or if I want to actually add other data sources as well. And again, we're not going to go into details of data preparation, but there are a ton of data preparation options that's available. Once I'm done with all these data preparation, I can actually go over and say like close and apply. So this is going to change all the changes that I've actually made right now, and it's going to bring it within the tool itself. So the first one, as I mentioned, is like the report view. We have a canvas, and we are able to see all my data sources here, which includes my measures and dimensions. So then I can actually switch over to the data view, which gives me like, row level details as well as how many rows has been imported from the data source. Now I can actually do a couple of other options over here, right click, and I can add like new custom measures, custom dimensions. I can edit this query, go back to the query panel and make some further changes, or I can copy and export it over to Excel or a different like CSV file, etc. Now, when you actually have multiple tables, the relationship manager will be much more useful. So let me just quickly show you an example on that. So I'm going to show you an example in which a pre-built Power BI document is present, and I will just be consuming that directly. So I'm just going to take this one. The other good thing is it's similar to an Excel file, you can say at a high level, because you can have multiple instances of it actually open. In this case, I'm actually connecting it to a data source. So in this case, I can even connect to like Microsoft Azure database or a SQL Server database as well. If it's a simple file system, I can also do that. In this case, let me just try this out. So I can have multiple versions of Power BI open, each showing its own data, each one having its own data source. In this case, I'm just going to close this instance. Okay, so this is already a pre-built report that I've actually built within Power BI. So you can see it has multiple data sources that are already loaded in. And also it has like a relationship manager in case I've done like a couple of mergers and appends. The relationship manager can be seen right over here. And with respect to cardinality, it can support 1:1 or nx:1 as well. So within Power BI, once you actually build visualizations, this view is called as a report view, and which is similar to the tabs that you see in Excel. And it's a pretty easy process in order to build the visualization. So we have actually looked into data acquisition, data preparation. Now we're actually going to look into data visualization aspect. And let's say I'm going to look into the manufacturer details as well as products. And I have sales right over here. So these sales values are all custom values that I've actually developed which I'm using formulas. And within Power BI, we actually use something called as DAX scripting in order to enhance the capabilities within the tool. So by default itself, you can consume the data sources that is available from the source, like how I did in the previous case right over here. So we have like all these aggregation values. And then let's say I'm going to see based upon my product category, what are my different sales values. So by default, it's just going to build me a simple table, but then I can even convert it to a chart. And I can do additional data preparation activities like, for example, building hierarchies. If I want to create a new hierarchy, I just click on that. And I have product category, which is defined over here. Now I can drag and drop other elements within this hierarchy, like product subcategories and product names also. So let me just drag and drop this. So right now I have this hierarchy built, and I'm going to remove this and instead put the hierarchy within that. And right now you have the ability in order to drill down so that you can go over to the next level. So from my product category, I can then drill down to my product subcategories, and then I can drill all the way back up. I can also enable click on to drill down. So once I actually click on the particular values, it will be able to drill down up as well as down the different levels of the hierarchy. And there are a ton of different options that's available over here on the visualizations panel. As you can see there, out of the box, there is close to 24 visualizations that are available. And also each visualization can be modified further, right from the color of the columns to the different plot areas, as well as so a lot of cosmetic changes can be done with respect to the visualizations as well. They also have this option called as analytics, where you can actually do like a constant line in this case, like finding an average or a median values. And depending upon the chart type, you can even do like options like forecasting as well. Now, in case there are like certain charts that are required but is not part of the Power BI, out of the box visualizations, there is also an option to import custom visualizations from the marketplace. And this is actually available on two options. So you can now actually have a file called as the visualization file, PVVis, or you can also get it directly from the marketplace itself. So in this case, when you actually click this option, it will connect over to the Power BI marketplace, and you can actually find a list of custom visualizations that are available. And you can even go over and hover over and see like what are the more based upon editor's pick or based upon a particular category. And then you can further see details about those once you click into that, and you can add these custom visualizations. I have added a couple of them, like the ArcGIS maps that has been enabled, which is based upon the preview mode, which we'll be covering next. So once the data visualization is actually done, your end result would be in the form of a report which has multiple tabs. So this can be one of my tabs, which is showing my product analysis. I have a tab which is actually built across my trends. Then we also have a sales-based report and YTD analysis. So all these things are done. So I have a report which is actually built. So this is the part about data visualization. Now, once this report is built, I would want to collaborate along with other users so that they can also see this. That can actually be done using this option called as publish. So once I click on publish, I will just save these changes first. Once I click on publish, it will actually be able to connect over to my Office 365 account and using the Power BI service. And I'll be able to select a destination where I can actually store my reports as well as my final dashboard as well. In this case, I've already saved the dashboard, so let me just go back to my Office 365 account. So in this case, you can actually see I have all my different Office 365 apps that are available, and I have my Power BI app also. So I just logged into my Office 365, and that's the easiest way to actually access your Power BI dashboards or your reports as well. Now, there's other ways to also do it. You can also access the apps from here as well. So once you actually go in here, you can actually go to your workspace where you can see all your different dashboards that are being built, as well as you can also see the reports that are being used for building those dashboards, the workbooks that you've been connected to, as well as the data sets that have been used for building those reports and dashboards. So everything is actually packaged within that one file, which has an extension called as .pbix. So that is a Power BI file. Now, in case of dashboards, this would be the final one which you're seeing. So I would go to my demo dashboard. I'll go back over to the contents pack later. So in case of dashboards, the interesting thing is that in Power BI, the way it actually works is first you actually build the data, then after that you build the reports, then finally you actually consume the most important insights from multiple reports into a dashboard. So here you will be able to pin different values from different reports into your Power BI dashboard, so which can include like KPI tiles or charts, or you can also even ask questions based upon your data sources. This is a really cool feature which is using natural language. So in this case, let me just type in what are my sales by products categories. So I'll just type in products. So it automatically actually generates a chart for me. So it basically does like ad hoc analysis on the fly. And based upon natural language, you can also ask question and answers. And let's say I'm interested in this particular visualization, I can just pin this visualization onto my existing dashboard or onto a new dashboard. I can select the dashboards as well. So in this case, I'm just going to use the existing dashboard. And it's actually done. So I'm just going to close this, exit the Q&A mode. And once I actually scroll down, I just pinned it. Just give me a second. Let me just try that again. Existing dashboard, pin live page enabled. So I'm going to pin this. Okay. Yep. So it's actually pinned right over here. So I have my, based upon my Q&A, I was able to actually generate the chart. And there are other cool features. For example, it already has a slicer which is inbuilt. So I can actually use that for my ad hoc analysis as well. So this is at the dashboard level. Now you can also look into things like usage metrics, like how many users have actually accessed this dashboard. You can also set this as like a feature dashboard, or even save it under your favorites. So, and multiple folks can also access it using the share option, which is other features in Collaborate. So I can even grant access to other users to actually see it. And I can also give like role-based security can be taken care of here, where people have only an option to view it, or they can comment on it, or they can even make changes to the existing dashboard. So this is part of the Power BI service. Now, when you actually look into it from the data side of things, you will also see like dashboard has like a couple of options. So we have like option to share, open, rename, remove. When you go down to the report level, yeah, this is an interesting thing. So if I want, I can also set like different levels of navigation. So I can click over here and I can say like I want to go and look into detailed view of this particular report, or I can even look into like a couple of insights as well. So what it actually does with insights is similar to the Q&A, but based upon the chart which you have chosen, it will also give you insights, other notable insights based upon the data as well. So a couple of charts have also been developed from that, and you can pin these values onto your Power BI dashboard. Now there's other options also where I can actually navigate from the dashboard by just clicking on the dashboard into the report level view. So the report that I actually consumed on the desktop can be viewed on my web browser itself. And I have a couple of options over here where I can, print it out as a PDF, publish it, and embed it on a web page, use SharePoint, or even export it as a PowerPoint presentation. There is also an option to which needs to be enabled, where you can also download the PBX file into a different system. So multiple options are actually available over here. Once you actually go on to the data set, which has been used for building this dashboard, you can also see that you can schedule refreshes, as well as there's option to analyze in Excel. So this is a very important concept when it comes to self-service BI, as a lot of folks want the export option to Excel. Since Power BI is also a Microsoft-based product, there's a lot of good integration between Excel as well as Power BI, both in the import as well as on the export side of things. And also you can manage permissions and all the other details within the tool itself in order to make sure like the data is restricted and the sensitivity of the data is also maintained. Now switching back to the presentation, so what we actually just covered right now is the data acquisition phase. As you can see, it covers like a ton of different data sources, being like based upon like Azure, Microsoft, or other third-party databases like SAP, Teradata, Oracle, as well as flat file structures, cloud-based application, online services. There's like more than 70 plus data sources that are out of the box available in Power BI. With respect to the data preparation aspect, as you can see, the query editor is very similar to an Excel-based interface. On top of it, it also has a DAX scripting process, which can obviously get complicated if not controlled, but it does provide a lot of flexibility and a lot more options in order to do data preparation. With respect to data visualizations, again, it has like close to like 24 visualizations that are available, or close to like 30 visualizations that are available out of the box. But then there are also several custom visualizations that can be imported on the fly. The only thing which is needs to be noted, some of them are like free visualizations that are available, so support and maintenance might be an issue. But you can also read a lot of reviews based upon like how the visualization has been used. Based on that, you can actually leverage them. There are also a couple of custom themes that can be developed and used across the organization as well. And once you actually extend the desktop version into the Power BI service, you can actually see that there's a lot more functionalities which open up with respect to sharing and collaboration, as well as you can even access things like the natural language and quick insights, as well as analysis, in order to get more details based upon the underlying data set. The final part is about collaboration. Obviously, once you actually publish the dashboard over, you will be able to even extend it over to other Microsoft-based products, or you can even export in the form of like PDF, as well as the data set can be exported in the form of Excel or CSV files. And the other features, obviously, exporting over to PowerPoint as well. And fortunately, Microsoft Power BI has like a monthly update cycle on the desktop tool and even more frequent updates on the Power BI service. So there's a lot of features which get packed in every single month. And we also covered a couple of unique features that are available predominantly in Power BI. First is the custom visualizations and the custom reporting theme, which I just spoke about. There is also options for scripting, which is the DAX level scripting. So if you want to build custom measures, custom dimensions, or even role level security, you would actually use the DAX scripting. Now, there's also integration along with R, so you can build R-based visualizations, or you can leverage R scripts also within Power BI from the query editor options, which I showed you. Again, these are more advanced concepts, so it's not within the syllabus of this webinar, but I've provided links to on these presentations for you to actually get more details on those. Again, there is also natural language based on question answers, where you can actually generate charts on the fly, quick insights. And the other cool feature which you can actually find is Cortana integration. So if you have like a Windows-based desktop or a Windows-based mobile device, you can also enable Cortana so that you can ask questions and get insights from Cortana itself without actually logging completely into your Office 365 Power BI. Other notable features which include are the preview features, which are made available time to time. I'll just quickly go over them. Apart from that, there are filtering-based options in the form of slicers, which are also known as controls, which are like on-screen filtering options that have multiple ways of doing it. And also integration along with the ArcGIS maps, where you can actually have different levels of layers that are actually set in order to make the analysis, geo-based analysis, much more easier. And also what if analysis using parameters can also be done. By default, the maps which are available in Power BI include both S3 as well as your Bing maps, but there's also these ArcGIS maps which can be enabled. Preview feature is something which I just wanted to touch upon. So when you actually go over to File and under Options, you have the options to actually connect over to like preview features. Okay, there are a ton of options that are available over here. The most important being preview features. So features there are two kinds of features that are mostly for future releases in Power BI. There's like a beta version and there's preview releases. These are more still on the initial phases of testing, but are still made available for customers to use. But Microsoft obviously does caution that these features, if successful, will be continued or might be discontinued. So you just be cautious while using this, but they're really good features. In fact, based upon like in the Feb month release, we also have the new SAP HANA connector, which lets you to connect to HANA both as a multidimensional model as well as like a relational model as well. That's something which I'm currently exploring. So a lot of new features that can be enabled from here. And it's as simple as, just checking this box and then saving which features you would want to see versus not. And this can be done at the individual desktop level itself. Now, we are slowly going to shift gears and looking at integration along with different technology stacks. So first, we're actually going to talk about Microsoft technology stack, since Power BI belongs to Microsoft. Couple of really interesting features that you can actually do with being a pure Microsoft shop or integrating along with the technology stack is to automate a lot of your work and to get the most out of Power BI. First thing is it integrates really well along with Microsoft technology as well as Office 365 tools. So things like Power Apps can be leveraged in order to work across multiple platforms, being Windows or iOS or Android, as well as web-based applications. You can also embed a lot of applications on the Azure platform, and this can be useful when a lot of folks don't have the Power BI user license but would still want to leverage these applications or the dashboards that you have built. So that in that case, leveraging the Azure platform will be really helpful. And one of my favorites is also using Microsoft Flow in order to automate a lot of your work, like in order to get notification, alerts, synchronize files, collect data. Microsoft Flow can be integrated along with your Power BI in order to do it. So this was actually discussed in a recent webinar on partner solutions. We can get more details on that as well. Now, again, looking at a very high-level overview based upon what you've seen so far in Power BI, there's a couple of scenarios that we can actually look at. The first one being a self-service BI scenario. So this is mainly for business users or a few power users in order to use a tool like Power BI in order to do ad hoc analysis and data visualization, and then use it individually or extend it over to a smaller group or a team. In this case, folks would be actually connecting to the source data, be it like on the cloud or on-premise, and then they connect over to Power BI, query it, build data sets, and then eventually reports. Now, the same using the data gateway, which is actually available on the Power BI website. So the good thing is that there's a couple of download options right over here. You can get the free desktop, the data gateway, or the mobile option, or even the Excel-based options as well. So it's very easy to navigate across Power BI and also leverage the newest features of the tool. So once the data gateway is actually set up, you can also do refreshes for your on-premise tools. And let's say if you have an SAP-based data source or a Teradata or Oracle, or even like a Microsoft data source like SQL Server on-premise, you can set up the data refresh. And so once you publish it over to Power BI service and integrate it along with Office 365, you'll be able to leverage your data refreshes and also make sure like your role level security that you're defined in the Power BI desktop can be leveraged over there as well. And once it's actually available on service, that can be extended over to mobile applications, as well as you can analyze using Excel in the last download option which I showed you. So this is a scenario in which you'll be using self-service BI solution. And as you can see, with respect to data acquisition, preparation, visualization, dashboarding and collaboration, Power BI does a really good job. And this is basically a scenario when business users would not want to involve IT folks in order to do ad hoc analysis. But you would also need to look at another scenario, which is when you're extending it over to an enterprise level solution or as an organization level solution. So in these cases, the final dashboard would be in the form of more of an application rather than just a report or a dashboard that is actually built on an ad hoc basis. Simple thing is because you don't want to have multiple versions of reports or dashboards all over your organization. You want to have a single version of truth that a lot of folks can actually reach out to in order to gain quick insights. Now, when you're looking at an enterprise level, Power BI alone will not be able to satisfy all your needs. No other tool will be able to satisfy all the enterprise level solutions. There would be a technology stack that it actually backs upon. So a simple thing is like if you're using a tool like SAP Lumira, they have the SAP technology stack that they depend on, like BI platform, as well as your backend services. All those things matter. When you're using Tableau, in order to improve performance, they do look into Tableau data extracts as one of the main sources of improving performance and optimization. Similarly, in case of Microsoft Power BI, we are also looking at leveraging things like analysis service in order to establish a live connection. So based upon all your data sources, if you actually combine everything into a thing like an Azure analysis services and establish a live connection, then you will be able to seamlessly integrate along with Power BI and also still maintain a single version of truth. So here's a concept where you actually when you have disparate data sources, you combine everything together using a data lake option or something like an analysis service, so that you're able to establish a live connection and there's a single version of data that is consumed across the desktop as well as the service. And once this is done, you can actually leverage the whole Microsoft technology stack from apps to mobile devices and then make it accessible to the end users. So when it's just a self-service BI solution, yes, Power BI does satisfy all the needs. When you switch over to an enterprise level solution, there are certain best practices where you would prefer to leverage the Microsoft technology stack in order to get the best out of your current, based upon your current technology stack. There's a detailed white paper on this, even on the Microsoft website that I provided a link to that you can look into more details about. And this is just a quick insight about what are the different Azure-based solutions that currently integrate along with Power BI, which include like Azure Data Warehouse, your Spark HD Insights, or your SQL Server-based analysis service. All these are can provide simple solutions by just connecting directly, or you can also build very complex solutions also based upon different machine learning and big data solutions as well can be brought in, as well as streaming live data. All these scenarios can be actually met with Power BI, but it needs the Azure platform or the Microsoft technology stack to back it up. Now, when you actually look at a hybrid scenario where you have both SAP as well as a Microsoft technology stacks within the same organization, which is very common nowadays, let's actually look into how Power BI actually performs and what are its current scenarios. Since most of our customers are have a big SAP shop, we had to include this portion, and we're not able to focus on other technology stacks, but we can obviously answer this question later. So with respect to SAP, we do have SAP HANA, BW, Universe, and your BI platform. Now, with respect to Power BI, we can directly connect along with HANA and BW. There's both an import as well as a direct query option. Direct query is nothing but like a live connection. SAP Universe was initially available in Power BI, but they're not supported anymore. And if you're trying to integrate along with your existing BI platform, like on your business objects platform or using consuming Webby report, that is currently not supported out of the box. So the main connections would be like HANA as well as BW. One more other important thing that you would need to note is row level security. So if you have row level security that is already defined in your SAP HANA systems or your SAP BW systems, those need to be kind of reconfigured within Power BI itself, both at the desktop level as well as the server level, in order to leverage the whole security feature. Because when you actually consume the data, initially you will be providing the user credentials and building the dashboard or the report. But then in order to restrict the amount of data that is seen by the end users, that row level security needs to be developed within Power BI. An exception for that would be obviously certain live connections as well as analysis services, where they expect the role level security to be present in your backend system itself. And a quick insight about how we actually do role level security is first we define the users, and then we define the roles as well as the rules that are which governs those roles as well. Now, to quickly show you that, I can go over to my query editor. I'll go back to edit queries. So I'm going back and editing my data sources, and you will be able to see a couple of different options right over here. And based upon these options, I can actually manipulate the data and also limit the amount of data which is actually being shown to my end users as well. A couple of options can also be seen under my data view in order to do that before I actually publish it over to the end user. So the data portion, because it's actually consumed within Power BI, needs to be restricted in order to make this row level security applicable. So we have two options where like the managed roles as well as the view roles in order to see this detailed data. Let me just close this query editor view for a second. Yep. So when you actually move, there are a couple of other options when you actually go to view as well as modeling. And under modeling is where you can actually see the security-based options, where you can actually restrict the row level security. So this can be done predominantly at the desktop, but there are a couple of options that are available on the Power BI service side as well. This is a quick insight about what is actually available on SAP HANA as a data source. So SAP HANA and the new release especially, there are like two kinds of options. There is under direct query. So even though this is under the preview options, I've been still exploring this direct query options. One of them is the multi-dimensional model, and the other one is the relational source model. So this is available under File, and you go over the options. So under options, we have preview features. So there is a new HANA connector, and by default, this would be like it will be connecting over to the multi-dimensional model. But you can also go to the direct query and then make the relational source as the default model as well. More details about this is obviously available on the Power BI website. But apart from that, there is also an import option where you can actually make a lot of changes to the underlying data set as well. I'll quickly show you a couple of demos on both HANA as well as BW based upon like the import as well as the direct query model. The important thing that needs to be noted over here is once the data is actually acquired within Power BI, pretty much all the other steps of self-service BI is the same, where you actually build visualizations, prepare the data, and collaborate finally. The only thing which needs to be taken into account is when you're connecting to direct query mode or the live connection, there is no data preparation options that will be available based upon the model type which you choose. But when you import the data, those options will be enabled, which we'll be quickly seeing next. For that, let me just open an instance to show you the HANA as well as the BW connectivity. In the essence of time, I'm just going to show you the connectivity portion. Meanwhile, when this opens, I'll also cover on the BW aspect and the prerequisites for that as well. So when you're actually looking at connecting to BW, again, there is a direct query as well as an import option that is available. Now, a couple of things that need to be enabled is since it goes down to the query level in order to consume the BW data, you would need to enable the access to this query level using the OLEDP for OLAP connector. And the other thing which needs to be taken into account is most of the SAP tools, when they connect to like, for example, like Lumira or Analysis for Office, when they connect to BW systems, they use the proprietary BIX connector to actually connect to it. So they have a lot more functionalities compared to third-party tools like Power BI, which is not part of the Microsoft, which is not part of the SAP technology stack. So they use something called as the MDX connectivity in order to get this data. So there are obviously certain limitations that you will face with Power BI. So either the query needs to be modified appropriately, or in future, SAP is also releasing the BW for HANA option. I mean, this is already available right now, but companies can actually look into investing into BW for HANA in future in order to actually get a SQL-based consumption of your data. This would make it much more easier for tools like Power BI or third-party tools that are non-SAP, like Power BI or Tableau, in order to consume BW data more efficiently. Let me just quickly show you this part about connecting over to a BW data source as well as a HANA data source. In the first case, let me just go over to HANA as a data source. It's pretty easy to navigate across. So we have for BW like two different options. One of those is beta, and this HANA database option which I'm using right now is based upon the preview option. So in this case, I would just need to give the HANA credentials. So HANA dev. And I'm going to use the direct query option in this case. Okay. So it has connected over to my HANA system, and then I can see all my different folder structures as well as the views. So I'm just going to consume one of my views from here. Let me just select spend. Okay. So in this case, you'll actually see that the edit option when I'm connecting to direct query will not be available. So I can't go into my query editor mode because I'm connecting to a multi-dimensional model within HANA. And so I will just have the load option where I can bring in all my different measures and dimensions in the form of a cube structure that is listed within Power BI. So whenever you actually go with a direct query option, you pretty much don't get the data preparation options that are available. So this connected to a pretty simple cube. So you have all my different dimensions measures available over here, but I would not have any data preparation options available. So that is the most important thing which you need to take into account when connecting to a live or a direct query compared to an import connection. Now, the same thing if I actually open a new document and try to connect over to a BW connection. In this case, it would be an import connection which I'm trying. You will see that the data preparation options will be still available using the query editor panel. And moving forward, when you actually invest in BW for HANA, we actually helped a couple of clients do that as well. You will be able to see a lot more lesser restrictions or limitations with respect to data connectivity options. Let me just show you this part about BW. And in this case, I will be actually using the import connection, not using direct query because that has the same kind of restriction as the HANA multi-dimensional model. Let's just give it a second for it to connect. And I was able to get into my BW system. And let me just go to one of the info providers in this case, like retail sales cube. Yeah, I can take this. And I have like these multiple queries or multiple cubes that are actually available. This is one which is actually built for an analysis for office scenario. I'm just going to directly consume that. And as you can see, I have like different measures and dimensions. So let me just take quantity as a measure that I want to analyze, and it's asking me for my variables. In this case, I'm going to select south and northeast. I'll take those two. And similarly, I can even go over to like say my calendar month in this case, and select my calendar month in this case. I forgot to apply use conditions right now. So I can get a subset of my data. So from here, I can actually select all the dimensions and measures that I would require. Care needs to be taken when you actually consume the data which has multiple hierarchies within the same dimension. In that case, it's not supported right now from the BW connectivity. Once I get this, I can even go to home and all my data preparation options are available. So this is with respect to connecting to SAP systems like HANA as well as BW. Now, are all the features supported with respect to HANA and BW? Not really. So these links which are provided on those slides actually take you into the actual Microsoft website, which talks about what are the current features that are supported, as well as what other features are limited as well. We will be having a detailed webinar on different tool comparisons later in a different webinar. When I also wanted to quickly highlight upon the other SAP tools, how it is currently right now and how it compares along with Microsoft Power BI. So when you're talking about self-service, currently there is SAP Lumira that you compare along with Power BI. Now the biggest strength about Lumira is that it has like live connections to your HANA and BW, and it's like proprietary connections like the HTTP-based INA connector or the BICS connector. Whereas on the other side, Power BI uses MDX in order to connect to BW, which has certain limitations. But there's obviously a lot more advantages when you actually have a large Microsoft technology stack. Power BI integrates really well. But apart from that, even the desktop tool does integrate along with like 70 plus different data sources, be it cloud or big data solutions as well. The other cool feature is that it also supports multiple SDK components for visualizations. And also it works across a lot of devices ranging from iOS to Windows-based devices. Very few tools actually work on Windows-based applications, but Microsoft does a really good job on that as well. The only thing which I would see as drawbacks is if the MDX if the DAX stripping portion is not taken into control, it can get pretty complex, as well as implementing your row level security as well as SSO can be a little challenging. Now, when you actually go over to the cloud side of things, you would want to compare for self-service. There is a Power BI service that is available from which you can directly integrate to different data sources, as well as on the SAP side, there is the Analytics Cloud. So both of these actually have their own technology stacks again as a backup, which they integrate really well. Only thing with the SAP Cloud is that the Analytics Cloud is that it also connects to a lot of other data sources. But on the Power BI side, we have the advantage it has like other Office 365 apps that it can integrate, like the Power Apps or the Microsoft Flow, which makes a lot more automation process available. So this is like high-level comparisons on these two tools as well. Now, quickly going over to the last section with respect to Visual BI offerings. So we have been working on predominantly the SAP technology stack, but there are a lot of organizations that we work which are based upon like Microsoft technology stack or hybrid-based scenarios as well. So we have done a lot of work on Microsoft data warehousing, Azure data lakes, Azure analysis for servers, and we also do trainings on Microsoft Power BI. And these are a couple of our case studies. For example, Newell Rubbermaid, where we did strategy and implementation on the backend services based upon Azure Data Lake, Data Warehouse, and SSAS, and then Azure Analysis Service, and then finally reporting on Power BI. Gulfport, where you've done data modeling and reporting purely using Power BI, and Pfizer, where we actually done like data strategy for different tool comparisons for self-service BI. And connected to multiple SAP, non-SAP, and Microsoft-based data sources as well. And a couple of other things which I wanted to also highlight is there are like upcoming webinars, which can, if you're interested in Power BI, is the Emerging Trends in BI, which is our next upcoming webinar. And also, if you have like a hybrid BI tool scenario, you can also look into something like this VBI View, which is a unified portal for exploring multiple tools within just a web browser itself. But I just wanted to quickly cover a couple of Q&A options as well before concluding this presentation. So just give me a second. Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions here. Actually, a lot of questions. So let me see how I can answer those. Okay, what are the best practices of using Power BI on top of SAP HANA and SAP BW? As I mentioned, you would need to look into self-service scenario, or are you looking at an enterprise level scenario? And one of the most important things you need to take in consideration is the row level security. Since it's based upon like an import model, it's not even like inherited within Power BI. So you would need to redefine those models. So if you have a good amount of technology stack from like Azure backup, then you can actually do that. Otherwise, there are like certain things which you would need to take into consideration with respect to connecting to SAP BW as a data source. Is it possible to load hierarchies from the source system and still be able to drill down using those hierarchies? Again, it really depends upon the source. So in case of a direct query connection, you will be able to inherit those hierarchies. So be it even an SAP source or a Microsoft-based source, you can inherit the hierarchies. But there are certain limitations when you import it where based on a single dimension, there are certain restrictions where you can't have a single dimension with multiple hierarchies. So that is not supported right now. The merge in Power BI dashboard and Tableau dashboard. So the merge functionality is nothing but a join functionality that is available. So you can actually do several different kinds of merges depending upon the source system. So in this case, if I can quickly just navigate over, when you go over back to your edit queries, you can actually find the merge option right over here, and you will be able to merge multiple queries depending upon how many sources you have, and it supports different kinds of merges as well, or different kinds of joins. Be it like an anti-join or like a left outer join, inner join, there are multiple options to connect to it as well. Okay, so if a SAP BEX query is connected to build a Power BI report, does it refresh automatically on open? How do we change the values of the variables and moving on to the next section? So there are a couple of options that are available for that as well, where we can enable parameters or variable prompts And based upon different releases of Power BI, they have also included newer functionalities on that, which can be found on the website. But again, the most important thing when you're considering SAP source is the row level security that you need to take into consideration. Again, there are a lot of questions which actually come. I will be able to answer those. I'll send you the replies back over email. But yeah, thanks for actually attending the webinar. I think we are exactly done with our time. And looking forward to seeing you guys over to the next webinar.